Your heating system is running right now, not because you turned it on this morning, because it never stopped. It ran while you slept. It ran while you ate. It will run while you watch this video. Every hour it runs, the meter moves. Every month, you pay the bill. And the industry supplying that energy has never once suggested that there was another way. There was another way. In the corner of a farmhouse outside Falun in western Sweden, there is a column of white ceramic tiles, roughly 2.5 meters tall, almost a meter wide. No visible flame, no glowing coals, no smoke. Place your hand against those tiles, 6 hours after the last fire went out inside it. The surface is still warm. Not faintly warm, warm the way a stone feels after sitting in afternoon sun all afternoon. That warmth came from a single fire, burned for 2 hours this morning, using wood from one medium-sized tree for the entire year. This is a Kakelugn, and what replaced it was not more efficient. It was more profitable. Place your hand on your radiator right now. It is warm because it has been running continuously since before you woke up. The moment it stops, the room begins cooling. That is not a design feature. That is a dependency. Subscribe to this channel right now. Before we go further, what you are about to watch has a paper trail, named decisions, documented commercial consequences. And when someone tells you this is exaggeration, you will be able to tell them exactly which decade the decision was made and what your heating bill has been paying for every month since. In 1767, the King of Sweden commissioned an architect and engineer named Carl Johan Cronstedt to solve a national emergency. Sweden was running out of trees. The iron industry was devouring the forests. Every household in the country was burning wood from morning until night for 6 to 8 months of every year. Open fireplaces lost up to 90% of their heat straight up the chimney. Sweden was not cold because it lacked fuel. Sweden was cold because it was wasting nearly everything it burned. Cronstedt understood the problem precisely. The solution was not to burn more wood. The solution was to stop throwing away the heat the wood already produced. What he built in 1767 did not just solve Sweden's fuel crisis. It produced the most thermally efficient domestic heating system designed for a private home in that era, and it kept Swedish families warm through 200 years of Scandinavian winters on a fraction of the fuel that your modern heating system consumes in a single month.
Here is exactly what Cronstedt built, and why its core performance principle has never been matched on the specific metric that matters most to your heating bill. A standard fireplace has one function: burn wood, let the hot smoke travel straight up the chimney, fast, simple, wasteful. The exhaust gases leaving a standard open fireplace exit at between 300 and 400 degrees Celsius. That heat goes into the sky. You paid for it in the wood you burned, and you received almost none of it. Cronstedt's Kakelugn did the opposite. The firebox was small and enclosed. The wood burned fast and hot, but instead of allowing the hot gases to escape immediately, the design forced them through a series of vertical internal channels. Up the first channel, down the second, up the third, down the fourth, up the fifth. 5 turns, 5 opportunities for the passing gases to surrender their heat to the surrounding brickwork. By the time the exhaust reached the chimney, it had given up most of its energy. Gases leaving a Kakelugn exit at between 100 and 150 degrees Celsius. Compare that to the 300 to 400 degrees leaving a standard fireplace. That difference is the heat your fireplace throws away and the Kakelugn keeps. The body of the stove was built from brick, mortar, clay, sand, and water. Heavy materials by design. A small Kakelugn weighed over 300 kilograms. A large one reached 1,200 kilograms. That mass was the point. The bricks absorbed the heat from the passing gases, slowly, during the 2-hour burn. Then they released it back into the room, slowly, over the following 16 to 18 hours. The bricks were a thermal battery. You charged the battery with a fast, hot fire. The battery discharged warmth for the rest of the day and through the night without a single additional piece of wood. The ceramic tiles covering the outside completed the system. Ceramic radiates heat the way the sun radiates heat, not convection moving hot air around the room, radiation, warming solid objects directly, walls, furniture, people. A cast iron stove heats the air around it. Hot air rises, your head is warm, your feet are cold. A Kakelugn warms the room the way sunlight warms a field, evenly, completely, from every surface simultaneously. Cronstedt's design was historically reported as 8 times more efficient than the open fireplaces it replaced. Modern masonry heaters built on the same thermal mass principles have been tested and documented at between 85 and 90% thermal efficiency. A standard fireplace captures between 10 and 15% of the heat from burning wood, one medium-sized tree per year to heat a room through a Scandinavian winter for 18 hours a day. That is not a historical curiosity. That is a performance standard the modern heating industry has never had a commercial interest in replicating for you. This is the moment in this video where this channel asks you to subscribe to this channel, because what you are watching is the argument this channel exists to make, one replaced technology at a time. A thermally complete system declared obsolete, replaced with something requiring continuous purchased energy, and the commercial logic behind that replacement documented and named. Subscribe to this channel now so you are present when the next one is uncovered.
By the mid-19th century, the Kakelugn was in nearly every Swedish home, not just manor houses and palaces, farmhouses, workers' cottages, modest rural homes with painted walls and wooden floors. The Swedish architectural historian Margareta Grimm documented what the Kakelugn produced at a national scale. By the 19th century, Sweden had the best heated houses in Europe, one of the coldest countries on the continent, the best heated homes, achieved not with more fuel, but with dramatically less. Before Cronstedt's design, a Swedish farmhouse in winter was a cold, smoky, dark place. The family clustered near the fire. Most of the house was abandoned to the cold for 6 months of the year. After the Kakelugn, rooms that had been uninhabitable through winter became livable. A farmer no longer spent his entire winter cutting and hauling wood fire. He fired the stove twice a day, 2 hours in the morning, warmth until the following morning. For 200 years, this system worked without failure. Then 3 forces combined, and the most efficient domestic heating technology Sweden had ever built was smashed, hauled to landfills, and replaced with something that needed to run every hour of every day. The first force was electrification. Electric central heating offered something the Kakelugn could not: warmth with no labor, no wood to cut, no fire to tend, no ash to remove. For a population that had spent centuries managing wood fire as a daily survival task, the appeal was immediate. The second force was post-war modernization. Sweden, after the Second World War, was building new housing for millions. Modern apartments had electric heating built in from construction. The Kakelugn, with its massive weight, chimney requirements, and twice daily fire tending, did not fit the architecture of modern Swedish life. The third force was the most consequential, and it is the one the history books describe most carefully as a cultural shift. Sweden in the 1950s and 1960s was becoming one of the most modern nations on Earth. The farmhouse, with its tile stove in the corner, its low ceilings, its wood smoke, belonged to the Sweden of before, the Sweden of poverty, cold, manual labor. The new Sweden had clean electric radiators that required no effort. That cultural association, Kakelugn equals backwardness, did not emerge in a vacuum. It emerged in a decade when the electrification industry was expanding its customer base across an entire nation. A household heating its home on 1 tree per year, firing a stove twice a day, generates almost no energy revenue. A household connected to continuous electric heating, drawing from a centralized grid every hour of every day, generates permanent, predictable revenue. The commercial consequence of Sweden abandoning the Kakelugn was an entire nation converted from energy independence to energy dependence in a single decade. Whether that outcome was the result of deliberate industry strategy or simply the alignment of commercial incentives with modernization ideology, the financial result was identical, and your heating bill reflects it every month. During the 1950s and 1960s, most Kakelugner in Sweden were torn out, ripped from the walls of homes being renovated, tiles smashed, bricks hauled to landfills, brass doors scrapped. Stoves that had kept Swedish families warm through 2 centuries of Scandinavian winters destroyed in a single decade. The Kakelugn went from being in nearly every Swedish home to being a curiosity found in unmodernized country houses and a handful of museums.
Here is what that transition costs you right now. Not in 1950s Sweden. In your home, this winter, this heating bill. Your modern electric radiator requires continuous energy input to maintain room temperature. It has no thermal mass, no stored heat, no battery charged by a morning fire. The moment the power stops, the warmth begins leaving. A Kakelugn fired for 2 hours this morning is still warming the room 18 hours later. No additional energy required, no meter running. Modern masonry heaters built on Cronstedt's original thermal mass principles have been independently tested and documented at between 85 and 90% thermal efficiency. Your modern electric radiator converts electricity to heat efficiently, but that electricity was generated somewhere, transmitted through infrastructure that loses energy in transit, delivered to your home at a price set by an industry that benefits from your continuous connection to its grid. The Kakelugn needed 1 tree per year and 2 hours of your morning. Your modern system needs the grid running for as long as you occupy that home. Some Kakelugner surviving from the late 18th century remain structurally intact today. The technology that replaced them has a documented service life of 15 to 20 years. The physics of what Cronstedt built in 1767 has not changed. Thermal mass still stores energy. 5 channels still extract more heat than 1. Radiant heat still warms a room more evenly than convected air. What changed was not the performance of the technology. What changed was the commercial environment around it. Here is the honest question this video ends with, not the prepared answer, the real one. Look at your last heating bill. That number exists because a commercial transition was made in the 1950s that converted an entire nation from a heating system requiring 1 tree per year to a heating system requiring continuous purchased energy indefinitely. Nobody asked your permission. Nobody presented the comparison this video just made before asking you to choose. The transition happened. The Kakelugner were smashed. The knowledge nearly disappeared. How much was your last heating bill? Drop that number in the comments right now. Not to impress anyone, not to complain, because that number is the monthly cost of a transition made 70 years ago that your household has been paying for every single month since. And the industry that benefited from that transition is counting on you never making that connection. The Kakelugn story follows a pattern. Replace the independent system, associated with backwardness, sell the dependent alternative as progress, then collect the revenue from every household every month for generations. That pattern applies to every system, every food, every technology this channel examines. The evidence for each replacement exists. The commercial logic is identical every time, and the performance gap between what was replaced and what replaced it is documented in the same record. The industries involved have no commercial interest in making available to you. Subscribe to this channel now and activate the notification bell before you move on, because this channel is not finished. There are technologies in your home and foods in your kitchen that were once independent, complete, and commercially inconvenient, and are now replaced with something that keeps you dependent and paying. This channel documents them one at a time, with evidence, with the commercial paper trail, with the specific decisions those industries are counting on you never examining. The people who subscribe to this channel right now will be there for everyone. Do not leave without subscribing to this channel. This is the channel they are counting on you never finding. Scandinavian farmers heated their homes through 200 years of brutal winters on one tree per year. The system that replaced theirs needed something theirs never did: a customer. Now you know what was in that stove. The question is what you do with that knowledge. Share your thoughts in the comment. See you in our next video. Stay tuned.